welcome to SG Global News. From the investigation into an alleged Eucharistic miracle in Indianapolis to an animated film featuring Jesus, Charles Dickens and his son Walter as lead characters, we have many stories to cover. A recent investigation into a consecrated host with red discoloration at St. Anthony Catholic Church in Morris, Indiana, has found a natural explanation. Biochemical analysis revealed the presence of common bacteria and fungus with no traces of blood, ruling out claims of Eucharistic miracle. The Archdiocese of Indianapolis shared these findings, emphasizing the thorough examination process.
An investigation into the consecrated host that showed red discoloration at a Catholic church in Morris, Indiana, has indicated that the phenomenon has a natural explanation. In a statement to sgnews, the Archdiocese of Indianapolis reported that a biochemical analysis of the host from St. Anthony Catholic Church in Morris revealed the presence of common bacteria found in human skin. When a host with red spots was discovered, parish authorities alerted the local ordinary. The host was then sent for further examination. According to the Archdiocese's statement, the host underwent professional biochemical analysis at a local laboratory. The results indicated the presence of fungus and 3 different species of bacteria, all of which are commonly found in human hands. The investigation also revealed no traces of blood, thus dispelling any claims of a Eucharistic miracle. Catholics believe that during the celebration of the Holy Mass, the bread and wine used in the Eucharist become the actual body and blood of Christ through a process called transubstantiation. While the elements retain the appearance of bread and wine, their essence is transformed into Christ Himself. This belief emphasizes that Christ is truly present in the Eucharist, not merely symbolically or metaphorically. In the 2,000-year history of the Catholic Church, only 107 Eucharistic miracles have reportedly received official recognition. Such approval is granted only after a rigorous investigation, often involving secular scientists and experts in relevant fields. Each approved miracle serves to deepen the understanding and reverence for the Eucharist among the faithful and reflects the Church's commitment to preserving the mystery of faith surrounding the sacrament of the Eucharist.
Hundreds of Palestinians have taken to the street of northern Gaza in the largest protest against Hamas since the conflict began. Demonstrators waving white flags and chanting anti-Hamas slogans gathered in multiple locations, including Beit Lahia and Jabalia refugee camp. The protests, which are rare due to Hamas's strict suppression of dissent, reflect growing public anger over the group's leadership and the ongoing war.
Hundreds of Palestinians have taken to the streets of northern Gaza in the largest protest against Hamas since the beginning of the conflict. The protest began in the northern town of Beit Lahia. According to the Times of Israel, demonstrations against Hamas rule reportedly took place at 2 additional locations in front of the Indonesian hospital and in northern Gaza's Jabalia refugee camp. Protesters bearing white flags demanded an end to Hamas rule and chanted slogans including "Out, out, out, Hamas out" and "Yes to peace, no to the ongoing war." Protests of these kind are rare, as the Hamas leadership routinely suppresses any anti-Hamas rhetoric from the outset. However, the prolonged war has allegedly weakened the organization, and many Palestinians are increasingly dissatisfied with the leadership, which they accuse of having no regard for their lives or the lives of their children. The protesters called on women to rise up against what they described as a terrorist regime that has sacrificed their children. They demanded that Hamas surrender and end the war. Additionally, they criticized a Qatar-backed news outlet for refusing to cover the anti-Hamas protests in Gaza. Meanwhile, families and clans from the southern governorates of the Gaza Strip have urged citizens to join the protest against Hamas, accusing the group of exploiting Palestinian suffering. Their statement also demanded that Hamas immediately relinquish control of Gaza and lift the unjust siege imposed on Palestinians due to decisions that do not represent them.
US President Donald Trump signed an executive order aimed at reforming elections in the United States, implementing changes to voting rules and regulations. These changes include requiring documentary proof of citizenship to vote and prohibiting non-citizens from making financial contributions to political campaigns, among other provisions. Trump also referenced election practices in countries such as India and Brazil, where voter identification is connected to biometric databases, contrasting them with America's patchwork system.
On Tuesday, US President Donald Trump signed an executive order aimed at overhauling the nation's election process. The order includes a mandate requiring documentary proof of citizenship for voter registration in federal elections and demands that all ballots be received by election day. The executive action asserts that the US has failed to enforce basic and necessary election protections and calls for states to collaborate with federal agencies to share voter lists and prosecute election-related crimes. It threatens to withhold federal funding from states that fail to comply with these directives. Voting rights groups have expressed concerns that this requirement could disenfranchise millions of people. According to a 2023 report by Brennan Center for Justice and other organizations, an estimated 9% of US citizens of voting age, approximately 21.3 million individuals, do not have readily available proof of citizenship. The order also instructs the Attorney General to prioritize enforcement of federal election integrity laws in states that do not share information about suspected election crimes with the federal government. In addition, the order emphasizes that votes must be cast and received by election day. President Trump stated that the order would hopefully end election fraud, claiming that elections are often rigged even before the results are known. He criticized mail-in voting without presenting evidence as insecure and prone to fraud, despite its growing popularity among voters, including Republicans. Trump further cites election practices in countries like India and Brazil and argued that the US is failing to implement basic and necessary election protections that are already standard in developed and developing countries. He further commented, quote, "This country is so sick because of the election, the fake elections and the bad elections, and we are going to straighten it out one way or other," end quote.
During US-Russia talks on the Ukraine war in Saudi Arabia, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated that Moscow is open to negotiating a new agreement regarding the Black Sea to safeguard shipping in the naval region. However, he added that this would depend on Washington directing Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to adhere to the terms of the agreement.
US and Russian officials recently held talks in Saudi Arabia regarding a potential agreement on navigation safety in the Black Sea, according to the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The discussions, which took place in Riyadh on Monday, were focused on securing a maritime truce in the Black Sea as part of a broader diplomatic efforts aimed at peace negotiations. The Black Sea Grain Initiative, a UN and Turkey-mediated agreement reached months after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, had allowed Ukraine to safely export grain. However, Russia withdrew from the deal a year later, citing violations of its terms. In response, Ukraine established its own export corridor by launching attacks to drive the Russian Navy from contested waters. Lavrov stated that any new agreement on Black Sea shipping, which would ease restrictions on Russia's agriculture exports, would depend on the United States directing Ukraine to accept the terms. He emphasized that Russia seeks to resume Black Sea shipping in a way that is acceptable for everyone and called for clear, specific, verifiable and working guarantees and mechanisms.
Angel Studios' upcoming release, The King of Kings, is set to hit theaters on April 11th. Directed and written by Sung-Ho Jung, this faith-driven film is loosely inspired by Charles Dickens' short story, The Life of Our Lord. The film follows a unique, multi-dimensional journey that Charles Dickens embarked on with his son Walter. Dickens takes the lead as a central character, leading his son through the remarkable life of Jesus Christ.
The faith-based animated film The King of Kings is set to hit theaters on April 11th. Loosely inspired by Charles Dickens' short story The Life of Our Lord, the film explores the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. The story follows a unique multi-dimensional adventure that Charles Dickens embarks on with his son Walter. As they journey together, Dickens uses his storytelling skills to ignite his son's imagination, sharing the fascinating story of Jesus, his trials, and his significant significant relationship with both allies and foes. In an innovative storytelling approach, Dickens takes center stage as a protagonist, guiding his son through the extraordinary life of Jesus, from his humble birth in Bethlehem to his miracles, sacrifice, and resurrection. Over the course of this journey, young Walter begins to grasp the power of love and forgiveness. Often regarded as the most authoritative work in Dickens' writings, The Life of Our Lord reveals a lesser-known aspect of the author, his profound engagement with Christian faith. Written and directed by Song Ho Jang, The King of Kings is distributed by Angel Studios. The film boasts an impressive voice cast, including Kenneth Branagh as Charles Dickens, Uma Thurman as Catherine Dickens, Mark Hamill as King Herod, Pierce Brosnan as Pontius Pilate, Ben Kingsley as Priest Caiaphas, Forrest Whitaker as Peter, and Oscar Isaac as the voice of Jesus Christ. The film's score, which brings to life both the world of Charles Dickens and the story of Jesus Christ, is composed by renowned musical director Tae Song Kim. Charles Dickens originally wrote The Life of Our Lord around 1846 as a private story to be read annually to his family during Christmas. It remained unpublished until 1934, more than 50 years after Dickens' death. The King of Kings serves as a creative testament to the passion, love, and faith in Jesus Christ.
That's all for today. Until we meet again, God bless and thank you.